at this time, our special lecturer for today, missionary Esther Chang. She will come up and she will talk to us about building the roads for world evangelization. All right, so let's welcome her with a big round of applause.
Hello everybody, like our teacher Everson said, my name is Esther Chang, and today's lecture title is called Building the Road for World Evangelization. I was thinking about many different things, such as being leaders or being summits, and I asked Emerson what would be the best thing to speak to our remnants about, and he said, well, speak about anything, because you go all over the world and meet lots of remnants, and what do you see from them, what do you expect from them, and what would you like to see in their lives. And you guys being the very top group of our remnants, if there's anything I want to say to you guys, it's, well, from everything that I've seen from other remnants, is what I really wish for you, and what I really wish your life would become. So that's why I said today's title would be Building the Road for World Evangelization. What I mean by that is that we're all traveling on the road for world evangelization. We're here, whether we were born into this movement or whether our parents brought us somewhere in the middle, we're all traveling on world evangelization. Everywhere you go, every message you hear remnant, you hear world evangelization. We hear that all the time. So it's inevitable. We're on this path. But world evangelization is something that's so far away. It's something that's so far in the distance, and you can't really touch it. You can't really feel it. Like if I say a computer, you can actually touch a computer and know what it looks like. But when we say world evangelization, we use that word so much, but we don't exactly know what that looks like. We have never seen it. We've never touched it. We've never tasted it. So we only have a vague picture of what it might be, but we don't exactly know what it means. Because of that, I see many remnants going, yeah, I'm the remnant, world evangelization, but they don't know how to get there, and they don't know what to do with that. So as remnants of this RGS school, I hope for you that world evangelization isn't just a slogan or a shout, but that it's really a clear picture of what you want in your life. When I say we're doing world evangelization, to make world evangelization a reality, the reason why I use the word road is because we're building that road to world evangelization. We use words like, we're going to fulfill world evangelization, but that too is very vague. That's why I decided to use the word road, because road is something that's very familiar with. We actually know what that is. You need to lay down the bricks, you need to lay down the concrete, you need to actually do something and pave the road. That's what we're doing. You guys, in your life, you are paving one section of world evangelization. It could be the very beginning section, it could be somewhere in the middle, or it might be very at the end, almost to world evangelization's goal. But anyway, you all have your section that you need to fill. And finding how you need to fill that and with what you're going to fill that is a very important thing that you need to find as remnants. Then on this road of world evangelization, the very first thing, I'm not going to write much, but the very first thing that you need to realize is that it's not me. God placed you here. You did not find this road by mistake. You did not build this road by yourself and get here. You were not born into this road. God placed you here. That has to always be your starting point. If you think that you're doing something for God, that you're serving God, or you are helping God doing world evangelization, that is a big mistake. That is not where our starting point has to start from. Our starting point has to be here. God put me here. God called me as His child. God called me as a student in this time. God called me to do world evangelization. And God called me as a remnant. In one ways, you guys are the most blessed age group in our Tarapang organization. Because the older people, they've lived through so many problems, so many spiritual hardships that they had to overcome, finally realize the gospel, and now they look back and think, oh, I wish I knew this gospel when I was your age. And then there are younger kids now. When I look at my children and my son, my daughter, they're like, my youngest son is 7 years old right now. And he's grown up, and this is all he's ever known. He's never been outside. He's never been to another church. He's never missed a World Remnant Conference. He went to the World Remnant Conference when I was pregnant. So he's been there ever since he was born. And so they're growing up in this movement. But you guys are the middle group, which means it can be difficult sometimes. But it also means that the biggest change and the biggest works of God are going to take place in your lifetime. Something that we've never seen before in this world is going to happen through your lives. That's the greatest blessing. And yes, of course, Satan will attack you because of that. So it seems difficult. But if you can just look a little bit further, you'll realize that is the greatest blessing that God has given to you. So God called us to be the summit. We use this word a lot, summit, but that means the top. That means the peak. That means that there is no one your equal. No one can say anything because it's so clear that you are number one top. That's what summit means. But that's how God called you. When you look at your life right now, it might not seem like much. Every single day you do the same thing over and over again. Especially living here at RGS, your life is a little different than other students out in the world. At least they go home, they wake up in the morning, they have time with their family. But your schedule seems every single day. Is this Monday? Is this Wednesday? Is this Friday? Oh, it's math this week. It must be Monday. You know, that can get through that cycle over and over again. So it's very easy for us to lose hold of this, that God called us as the summit. God wants to make your life something that is not equal in all the world. There is no one else that can do what God gave you to do. Because of that, the second thing you need to do is take pride. Our junior high school years, our adolescent years, is a time of a lot of change, spiritually, mentally, physically, emotionally. It's a time where we're changing a lot. In that sense, it can become very confusing. Your self-esteem might get lower. You see other people doing things that are better than that they're better than you, and you might not feel so proud of yourself. But our pride does not lie again on me. I can do this, or I can't do that, or she's better than this, or I'm not so good at that. The focus is not me. The pride that we have, again, has to come from God. That God called you as His child, that God called you as a summit. I want you guys to be so proud of that. Proud that to the point where somebody might think that you guys are a little bit arrogant. But that's okay. Because I think arrogance is better than be having low self-esteem. I have two sons. My oldest son is very shy. And I look at him and I'm worried for him sometimes. And we go to a playground, and if he's playing at the swings and a whole group of kids come, he goes to the slide. And if he's playing on the slide and a whole bunch of kids come there, he goes to the seesaw. And then he's at the seesaw and a whole bunch of kids come there, he moves to the park bench. So I asked him, why don't you play with those friends? Why are you going around? He's like, I'd rather be by myself. And as a mom, like, go play, go make friends. But my husband said, leave him alone. He's just like me. So I realized, oh, my first son is just like my husband. And then I see my youngest son. My youngest son, you know what he's like? When he goes to church and he sees all of the 권사님s and the older people, he goes up to them and he hits them in the butt. He goes, and he hits them. And they turn around and he's like, you know, he's making himself known. He's very confident. And that's how he pulls all of their love towards him. He's very, very confident in himself. And sometimes when my husband and I look at him, we think, you know, we can drop him off in the middle of a desert and he'll be fine. He will find somebody to love him. He will find somebody to feed him. He will find somebody to give him food. We don't have to worry about him. That's what I mean by this pride. Take pride in who you are. Be confident in who you are, not because of what you can do or how you look, but because of how God called you. And one thing I want to say to you guys is that you guys are remnants and you guys are Christians. if you guys are Christians and if you guys are remnants, be a good one. When I mean good, I don't mean nice. Always, not getting angry, always being very pleasant. That's not the good I'm talking about. When I mean good, I mean best. My husband used to pray when he was in college. He said, God, I want to do world evangelization. But if I'm going to do world evangelization, I want to be in the very front, holding the flag and racing forward. I don't want to be all the way in the back, going like this. Oh, I have to go. Someone has to help me get up the hill. Someone has to help me cross the river. Someone has to help me jump over the stone. Do you know how tiring that is? That's so much more difficult than being in the front, holding onto the flag and racing forward. If you guys are going to be Christians, if you guys are going to be remnants, be the best Christians. Be the best remnant. Be a remnant this world has never seen. Be a remnant that not even Tarakbang has ever seen. Be a Christian that this world has never seen. When I was in high school, I heard one speaker, and he was saying, this world has yet to see a true Christian. And when I heard that, I said, there's so many Christians. I'm a Christian. My father's a Christian. My friends are Christians. What do you mean by that? And he said, if the world had a real Christian, the world would not be the way it is right now. And when I thought about that, it was true. And I prayed. I said, God, if you're looking for one true Christian, and you're going to find that person, it might as well be me. If God is going to use you guys as a summit, if God is going to change this world through the remnants, He's got to pick someone. It could be the person next to you. It could be your younger brother or sister. But if He's going to pick someone, why not let it be you? That's the pride that I'm talking about. I used to remember that my husband used to say, when he first went into college, he went to seminary. And when he said when he got to seminary, God brought in all kinds of people, and a group of friends formed together. And he said there were so many strange people in seminary. There were some people there who didn't even know why they were there. There were some people who were on fire for God. He said there was one friend who came and he had 2 kondo knives, always, sticking out like this, right? And my husband said he had no idea why, but he was always walking around. That guy was always walking around with 2 kondo knives. And so after class, he tapped my husband and said, let's go. And my husband said, where are we going? He says, we're going to the back of the school, and we're going to go and catch all those seminary students smoking in the back. And so my husband went with him, and so when he went, he took out both the knives and he started beating all of the seminary students who were smoking in the back of the school. What he was saying is that you guys are here to serve God as seminary students. Then be a good seminary student. Don't be here hiding in the back, smoking a cigarette. Maybe you're going to get caught. Maybe you're not going to get caught. That's what he was saying. And when I thought about that, I said, that's right. I don't know if beating up somebody is a good thing. I don't think that's very good. But that stems from his pride. This pride will guard you. Because this pride, as a remnant, is this right? What would a remnant do? What would a remnant dad do? What would a remnant husband do? My husband, he talks about that a lot. Myself as well. With someone who has the gospel, is this right? Or is this not right? Especially here at our RGS, we really emphasize self-sufficiency. Being a self-sufficient remnant. It stems from here. Knowing who you are in God. Not having somebody tell you, don't do this, don't do that. Or you should wake up, or you shouldn't wake up. Or you should do this, or you shouldn't do that. But being able to know, hey, I'm a remnant. I work more than this. I'm better than this. This is not, I wish that the camera was not on, but I don't tell this often, but when I was in junior high school, I learned how to curse. And so I started saying a lot of bad words. And, but nobody knew. Nobody knew in my family. My parents didn't know because, I never said it in front of them, right? Nobody in my church knew. I never said it in front of my pastor or the assistant pastor or any of my church friends. They didn't know that I cursed. Because in church, I was Esther Chang. You know, I had to be, you know, past my father's, you know, my parents were elders, my mom was a deacon, you know, so I was a very nice, you know, church kid who always inside very well to the adults and memorized all the Bible verses and did all my Sunday school homework. That was me. But at school, I was a different person. But one day, I thought to myself, you know, I'm a Christian, and God is inside of me. And God knows, even if my parents don't know, even if my teachers don't know, I wonder what He thinks about the words that I'm using. And I really thought a lot about that. After that thought crossed my mind, I actually stopped cursing. It was a little difficult because I couldn't make a full sentence without a curse word somewhere in there. And so it took a while, but it became easier, you know. But nobody knows. My parents never knew. My Sunday school teacher never knew. But they didn't have to tell me, stop cursing, Esther. You shouldn't curse because you're a Christian, or you shouldn't curse because of that. Those are bad words. They never had to say that to me. Why? Because this is part of me. As self-sufficient remnants here in this global school, yeah, you do have your teachers and you do have your parents, and we're so thankful for them. But let this guard you. I'm a remnant. God knows. What would God think about this? How should I live my life as a remnant? That's the most important thing. That's what it means to take pride. And that's the greatness that God has called you to. So don't live mediocre lives. Don't settle for mediocre lives. Live an extraordinary life. Because that's the life that God gave you. Later on, when you find your talent, later on, when you're much older, it keeps getting better and better. But that doesn't mean you can't find this now. Find it now, in this school. 90% of the students your age in this world, they all go to school. And 90% of them think the exact same thing. Oh, I've got to go to school. Oh, my teacher. Oh, I've got a test today. They all think the exact same thing. They all live in the exact same way. Don't settle for the ordinary. Be extraordinary. In this school, you might think that the school is small. You might think that there's not that many things you can do here, but that's not true. Because the place doesn't make, it's not about the place that makes who you are. It's what you do here that's more important. That's the standard of measurement. What are you going to do in this place? What are you going to do to make your life extraordinary here? And in one sense, it's so much easier to do it here because you don't have a lot of the rules and regulations that other schools have. And you've got so many people backing you up that are going to support you in what you want to do for world evangelization. When I was in college, I was talking to my husband about this, but my college years, I had the best time of my life. But that's not because I did anything bad or went to parties or anything like that. That's not what I'm talking about. The best time of my life, what I mean by that is I lived with no regrets in serving God. I feel like when I was in college, I did everything I could to do God's will in my college. My college years were so fun. And those friends I talk to even now. And even now we talk about world evangelization. That's what I mean. The time that you guys have here, make it the best junior high years of your life. Everybody goes to junior high school. Same school. Same 3 years of their life. How are you going to spend those 3 years? Make it the best 3 years of your life. Then when you go to college, whether you go to high school, whether that's 3 years or 4 years, make that the next 3 best years of your life. When you go to college, make that the next best 4 years of your life. That's what I mean by extraordinary. Putting the standard not on me, but upon God. The second thing we need to do in doing world evangelization is finding my role. What I mean by this is, what's your section along the road of world evangelization? In your lifetime, you're going to lay down so many bricks for world evangelization. In each stage of your life, You lay down a brick when you are in elementary. You lay down a brick when you're in junior high school. You're laying down a brick when you're in high school. You lay down a brick when you're in college. And when you become an adult, you're going to lay down bricks as well. I'm talking about how you're going to lay down your section. That means that you have to be faithful in what God has given to you now. We all have this dream that later on I'm going to do great things for God, or that God wants great things for us. And yes, that is true. But you know, in reality, it's not about doing some great thing for God, but it's about being faithful to what God has given to you now. What is your present reality? What is your situation right now? Your situation right now is that you are students. That's inescapable. You can't escape this time of your life. Being the best student ever, that is how you lay down your brick for world evangelization in your time right now. On Sunday, I was speaking with the moms in my church. I was speaking with the prenatal infant moms. So the prenatal infant moms have babies who are in their womb, or babies who are just born, so they're very young. And I told the moms, I said, in your life right now, in your lifetime schedule, what is God asking from you? It's nothing else. Be the best mom ever to that child. You guys are still young, so you might not know, but a lot of times when I meet with young women who are in college, or who have just graduated from college, or just gotten married, they become very discouraged. What I mean by that is, in high school, they were praying for world evangelization. In college, they went to school saying that I'm going to become a missionary, and I'm going to go to the Muslim nation, or I'm going to go to Africa to serve God. And then they get married. And then they have a child. And then they, at home, taking care of that child. And that dream about world evangelization, that dream of going to Africa, that dream of going to a Muslim country, is gone. They think that it's disappeared. And they're left holding on to a baby, and baby's crying, and they've got to feed the baby and change the baby's diaper. I remember when I was raising my kids, I wondered, where did my life go? Because my whole life seemed like changing poopy diapers, and then feeding my baby so that I can have more poopy diapers. That's what my whole life seemed like. But that's not it. I told those moms, being the best mom is what God wants from you. That's your section of world evangelization. What are you right now? You guys are students. Being the best student, that's how you fulfill your role for world evangelization. What you will be later on, that comes later. And that's another big part of our lives. But being faithful right now. A lot of times we're not able to connect our reality with our faraway vision. And we don't see how that really connects at all. We cry world evangelization and we talk about so many things, but we don't know what that means in our present reality. When I was going to school, I studied nursing in college. And one of the most difficult classes for nursing is pharmacology. Pharmacology is the study of medicine. And you have to learn the names of the medicine. And each medicine has 3 different names. There is the regular name that people have for the medicine, then there is the chemical name, and then there is the brand name. So you have to memorize all 3 names. After you memorize all 3 names, you have to memorize how much the dosage is. How much do you give to an adult? They get 2 pills, or they get 500 milligrams. Or a young baby only gets 80 milligrams. You have to memorize all of that by age group. Then you have to memorize, if this person takes this medicine, they are not allowed to take that medicine because the medicine will fight with each other in their bodies. So you have to memorize everything. And do you know how many medicines there are in the world? There's so many different kinds of medicine, and every year there's new medicine. That's the most difficult class in all of nursing school. And I would take it just like all the other nursing students. And I groaned, and I said, oh, and I can't believe I have to memorize this. And I passed. Did I pass well? Well, not really, but I passed. I passed. And so I was talking to one of the seniors. That was when I was a junior. And the senior said, how did you do in pharmacology this year? And I said, oh, I barely passed. And do you know what she said to me? Take it again. And I said, are you crazy? Why would I take that crazy class again? And she said, if you're going to become a nurse, you deal with medicine every single day. You have to give your patients medicine every single day. If you don't know the medicine, you can't do your job as a nurse. If you barely pass pharmacology, take it again until you know every single medicine. As soon as she said that, I realized that I'd always been saying, oh, I'm going to become a nurse, I'm going to serve God as a nurse. But that was just a floating dream. I had no real step and plan of how to achieve that dream. She was right. Pharmacology is the most important class that I need to take. I need to know the medication forwards and backwards. I need to know it in my sleep. I need to know it with my eyes closed if I really want to become a nurse. That's what it is. What you're doing right now, your time as a student, don't think that you're going to do great things for God later on. What you're doing right now, the role that God has for you right now, being faithful to that role, that's the biggest thing you can do for world evangelization. That's the most important thing that you can do for world evangelization. Be the best at that. Be the best student ever. Last thing that I want to talk to you guys about is that our end goal. End goal, of course, is world evangelization. But what I mean is that in each step of the road that we have, this road for world evangelization, we have our young childhood years, we have our junior high school years, we have our high school years, but we've got the rest of our life, and it's this part of our life through which we can give God the greatest glory. It's our occupation. What talent are we going to use to give God the greatest glory? And this too, it's not something that you can find easily because it's not yours. God gave it to you. There is something that God gave each and every one of you, and it's through that He wants to receive the greatest glory through your life. Finding that is how we build the last section of our part of world evangelization. That's why we prepare all of these things up to this point. In finding that, it might be difficult, it might not, it might be easy for some people. For some people, ever since they're born, they have a talent, and everybody knows what that talent is. And for some people, it's not that easy to find. Whenever I used to hear speakers and they talk about talents, what's your talent? You have to find your talent. I hated that speech because I didn't know what my talent was. I wasn't good at anything special. I wasn't outstanding in anything. So I didn't know what my talent would be. But the important thing is that rather than looking for it here or there, just ask God. Because He's the one that gave it to you. When I mean ask God, I mean get close to God. That's why we do our prayer journals. That's why we pray. That's why we do our 3 todays. Because we get to know God better. And the better that we get to know God, the better we are able to find what He's given for each and every one of us. That's meant to be our goal. It doesn't matter what talent you use. Everyone has a talent. It could be big or it could be small, but everyone has one. You could use this talent or you could use that talent. That's not what's all that important. The most important thing for us is that we've got the right goal of world evangelization in our lives. Like I said before, I went to nursing school when I was in college. The reason why I went to nursing school is because I wanted to do missions. With my life, I wanted to give God the greatest glory by being a missionary. And that was my end goal, doing world evangelization through missions. What path I'm going to take to become that missionary didn't matter to me. Whether I became a nurse or whether I became someone else, it didn't matter. So when I went to college, I went with 2 majors. And one was pre-med, because that would take me into nursing. And the other was French, because I took French for like 7 years. And the reason I took French is because I wanted to go into language and then study linguistics so that perhaps I can go to some tribal village in Africa and translate the Bible. So those are the 2 goals that I had. While I was going to college, my mother and dad used to go to mission trips. And they called me and saying, you know, Esther, when we're in the mission field, it seems as if medicine is a really, really good tool for reaching people with the gospel. So why don't you choose nursing? So I said, okay. So that's why I went to nursing school. After I graduated, got my license and everything, am I doing nursing right now? I'm not. And one time a college student asked me, Ms. Chang, didn't you waste 4 years of your life? And I said, no, I don't think that way. Why? Because nursing is not my end goal. My end goal was to be used by God for world missions and for world evangelization. Whatever talent He decides to use in my life to do that, that's what I'm doing. If your goal is becoming some profession, being a teacher, being a doctor, being a lawyer, being a housewife, when that dream ends, your life crumbles around you because you have no other goal. Our goal goes beyond that. That's not our end purpose. Our end purpose is to be used by God for the greatest glory of world evangelization. Whatever tool He happens to use in us for that, it doesn't really matter. God could have used me as a nurse to do world missions somewhere. But right now, God's using me as an interpreter to do world missions. And for me, I feel like I'm giving God the greatest glory in my life through that. If at another time in my life, God asks me to do something else and dig up my old nursing license and go out to the mission field, I'll do that. Because I'm going to use that to give God the greatest glory to do world missions. Whatever occupation you take that's going to make up the rest of your life, whatever you're going to use to give God the greatest glory, remember that is just a tool by which God is going to use you. Always remember that. That's about a lot of the things that I wanted to say to you guys. I hope I got through to a lot of you. But yeah, there were so many things that I wanted to say, but because this time is limited and things, I didn't know exactly how I should present this way or that way. But those are things that I wanted to share with you. I see lots of remnants. Lots of remnants crying out world evangelization. Lots of remnants saying that they're going to do world evangelization. But they don't have a clear plan. That vision of world evangelization has no basis, no roots in today at all. If that happens, it's just a dream. If you can make that vision a step-by-step reality by being faithful in what you do today, then without you even realizing, soon you guys are going to be living this extraordinary life. When you guys do things, when you guys are out there, remember that you guys are not alone. It might seem that way because you're here by yourselves, your parents are not here, but you guys are a part of a bigger picture. You guys are part of a bigger movement. You guys are just here at RGS, but all over the world, remnants just like you are arising. And you'll see them all gathering together at this year's World Remnant Conference in Busan. And that's one big festival where you can see so many different people. But then after that big festival ends, we all go back to our homes. We all go back to our lives. We all come back to Tokyo here. And you're trapped here. And you don't know what to do. I don't think that way. Because you guys are part of a bigger thing. And I always want to tell remnants, when you're out there, you need to remember that. What you do reflects on everything that you're a part of. What you do reflects on your church. What you do reflects on your school. What you do reflects on this organization. And ultimately, what you do reflects on pastoring. I went to a seminar one time for international students. There were Korean students who were studying in America. And so it was a seminar to prepare them to go to America. It was not a Christian organization at all. It's just a regular seminar, and I happened to attend. And the speaker was saying, when you go to America, things are so different there. Life there is much different than it is here in Korea. And you're going to be lonely there. You think you know English, but when you get there, you realize that your English is not as good as the people there, so you're going to feel frustrated. And he's saying all these things, and then the cost of living is so much more expensive there than it is here. Here, you can just go out with $1 and buy a big, thing of kimbap. There, you can't buy anything for $1, And so those kind of things, life's frustrations start getting in the way. And so he was talking about that. And then he said, I don't know if any of you guys know this, but you guys are much younger generation than I was when I went to college, so they have telephone booths in America. Do you guys know what a telephone booth is? Right? Telephone booth, right? You put a coin in and you can make a phone call, right? Or parking meters, where you park your car and you have to put a coin in the meter so that you can have that spot for like 30 minutes for an hour. And so you usually put a quarter in. A quarter is 25 cents, right? And the person said, it takes 25 cents to make a phone call. It takes 25 cents to get some time on the meter. But the American 25 cents is the exact same size as the Korean penguin. As soon as he said that, all the students, their eyes started lighting up. The reason is because an American 25 cents is 250 won in Korean money, which means if you've got 100 won, you've saved over 50%, right? So all these, I can see all these international students say, oh, I can save money by making my phone calls and by using the Korean, 100 won, right? The next thing that the speaker said, but when the meter man comes to collect all the coins, and he opens up the telephone booth, where he opens up the parking meter, and all these South Korean wons come pouring out, can you imagine how much he's going to curse South Korea? As soon as he said that, everyone was like, oh. It's true. Those international students might just think that they're just one student living in America, trying to get by, trying to save as much money as possible, but every action that they make reflects back on their country. Same thing for you guys. You guys might not think you're all much right now. You're just junior high students. What can my one action, or my one word, or my one activity make all that much of a difference? But it does. One little thing you do can come back as a glory to our organization. One little thing that you can do can come back as a criticism to our organization. I always tell the remnants this, and especially our students who go out overseas. One thing that you do, think of it this way, the one thing that you do reflects back on Pastor Yu. Then would you do what you're doing right now? But it's not a far-fetched idea. It's the truth. Because while you guys are here, you are a part of this organization. So take pride in who you are. Realize that you're a part of a bigger group and that you guys are not alone. And in that, I want you guys to challenge towards this, being extraordinary in your lives. Last thing I want to leave you with is a small quote. Vision without a plan is a hallucination. If you have a vision but there's no plan, it's just your own grand ideas. That's never going to happen. A plan without action is just a dream. You've got a plan but you don't act on it, it's not going to happen. Like my plan to lose 10 pounds by WRC, it's probably not going to happen. Action without plan or vision is a nightmare. You're just running around with no plan, no vision, that's just a nightmare. That's going to come back to haunt you. So I want you guys to be remnants who have vision. You already have your vision. I want you guys to be remnants with a plan. And I want you guys to be remnants who can act on that plan. Not when you're older, not when you become a doctor, not when you become a college student, but right now, here. And be the best remnants that you guys can be. Thank you guys. If you guys have any questions, I can take some questions now if you would like. Any questions is fine. It doesn't have to be about the lecture.
You guys have any questions? Any questions? She travels around the world. She spends time with Pastor Yu all the time. Nothing?
Interpretation is actually it's a skill that has to be learned and practiced. But whether you become one or not, I think that's not really that important. But being able to interpret is going to help you in every area of your life. What I mean by that is that yes, it's becoming a global world, and I'm sure that there are going to be machines that interpret, but it's not going to be like a person can interpret. Even now, the machines they're still a mess and stuff. Should you become an interpreter in the future? I can't exactly answer that question, I'm not sure, because things will be much different later on. But being able to interpret well, whatever field you go into, it will always be a help to you. Whether you go into business, whether you go into being medicine, whether you being able to speak another language and having that skill to transfer back and forth, you'll be wanted everywhere you go if you have that skill.
How can you check about whether my dream is in God's plan or not?
You gotta keep moving. You know, if you're only thinking about the dream and saying, oh, I wonder if this dream is going to be, if it's God's plan or not, it's not gonna go anywhere. It's kind of like if you're sitting in a car. If you're not driving, you can't turn right and you can't turn left. But if you're sitting there, you're not going anywhere. If you got a dream, move with it, realistically. Have a plan for it. As you move with that plan, God can correct it. If He thinks that it's not right, He'll change it. But if you're just sitting there, like I said, it's just going to be a dream. It's not going to happen. So if you have a dream, wondering if it's God's plan or not, that's a very good thing to think about. But take it one step further and act on it. And as you begin working on it, you'll realize, oh no, maybe this is not what God wants for me. Or yeah, this is exactly what God wants for me. And then you can find more direction that way.
You look like you have a lot of questions. Don't mooch on me, just ask.
I think you want to ask in Korean, that's why.
Alright, I'll let you guys speak Korean this one time. If you want to ask a question.
In Korean, it's okay. Yes, it's okay. Your mind is coming.
통역사 어렵네요. 통역할 때 많이 어려워요.
Let's see. 한국어로 나볼까? 어려운 부분도 있고, 또 어떻게 보면 이제 통역하면서 사실 내가 제일 잘하니까는. 왜냐면 목사님이 뭐라고 했는데 내가 저 단어를 모른다. 그럼 내가 제일 잘하잖아. 그런 부분에 대해서는. 그러니까는 듣는 사람들은, 한국 사람들은 통역의 기준이 뭐냐면 말이 그냥 빨리 나오면 잘 통역한다 생각해. 그러니까 내가 여기 서서 목사님 딱 얘기해가지고 내가 A, B, C, D, E, F, G 하면 통역 잘한다. 그렇게 생각하거든. 근데 통역을 알아듣는 사람은 한국말을 몰라. 그러니까 내가 아무 말을 해도 그 사람들은 그냥 영어로만 들으니까는 몰라. 진짜 아는 사람들이 한국 영어 다 하는 사람 내가 알지만은 내가 제일 잘 알지. 내가 잘하고 있는지 못하고 있는지 저 단어를 알고 있는지 그런 걸 하지만은 그거를 떠나서 하나님이 한다는 걸 많이 느껴요. 어려운 건 그걸 어렵고 내가 또 노력하는 일이 있지. 성경 구절도 많이 외워야 되고 목사님 메시지 흐름도 알아야 되고. 근데 그런 것도 있어. 목사님이 뭐라고 했어. 근데 나는 못 알아들었어. 근데 내 입은 움직이고 있는 거야. 그러면 내 입이 움직이는 걸 들으면서 아 목사님이 저 말했구나. 그럴 때도 있고 어떨 때는 목사님이 무슨 단어를 얘기를 했는데 난 그 단어가 뭔지 몰라. 그냥 때려 맞췄어. 근데 나중에 확인해 보면 그게 맞아. 근데 그게 다른 것보다는 내가 기도하는 게 목사님 안에 있는 성령이 내 안에 있는 성령이라면 내 영어 수준과 내 한글 수준과 상관없이 같은 메시지가 나가야 되지 않겠느냐. 그 기도를 내가 항상 하거든. 그러니까는 어려운 부분도 있어. 다리 아플 때도 많고 어떨 때는 밥도 제대로 못 먹을 때도 많이 있고 그냥 밥 너무 많이 먹어서 올라가면 배가 너무 많이 나와 있고 뭐 소화도 안 되고 뭐 그런 것도 많이 있거든. 잠도 못 잘 때도 있고 그렇지만 그거 다 떠나서 아 하나님이 하시고 있다는 것이 느끼면 거기서 내가 진짜 힘이 나. 내가 알면서도 그런 인스턴스가 가끔씩 있으면 맞구나. 진짜 유목사님 안에 있는 성령이 내 안에 있는 성령이랑 똑같은 성령이구나라는 게 확인되면 진짜 거기서 힘이 나더라고.
통역하시다 보면 되게 많은 사람들 앞에 서시게 되잖아요. 근데 많은 사람들 앞에서도 어떻게 그렇게 안 떨고 자신감 있게 하실 수 있는지.
떨릴 때도 엄청 많아. 매번 떨릴 때, 매번 올라갈 때마다 떨리긴 하지. 또 특히 랩맨 컨퍼런스 때는 많이 또 떨리는 부분이 있겠지만은 아까도 내가 그 대답하는 부분처럼 내 실력보다는 하나님의 사람들이 메시지를 들어야 되는데 나라도 안 하면 이 사람들은 못 듣겠구나. 그 생각으로 나는 많이 서. 왜냐면 내가 영어를 잘해서 내가 한국말을 잘해서 그건 아니고 하나님이 더 잘 아는데 나보다 영어를 더 잘하는 사람도 있고 나보다 한국말을 더 잘 이해하는 사람도 있지만은 내가 하나님 앞에서 섬기는 부분에 대해서 내가 섬기는 게 아니라 지금 하나님은 나를 메신저로 사용하고 있다. 통역자로 사용하는 메신저를 이 사람들을 위해서 사용하고 있다는 생각을 하게 되면 그 부분에 대해서 많이 좀 이렇게 떨리는 감정이 없어지게 되지. 그러니까는 나는 항상 그거를 언제 체크하냐면 이 목사님이랑 같이 앉아 있잖아 항상. 그게 나한테는 마지막 나의 체크할 수 있는 포인트야. 그 전에 내가 남편이랑 싸웠든지 내가 기분이 엄청 나빴든지 아니면 내가 너무 피곤하든지 그거 다 내려놓고 하나님 내가 여기 왜 서 있죠? 맞다. 내가 지금 내 기분과 모든 거와 상관없이 하나님 말씀을 전하도록 내가 메신저로 서야 되는 시간이 있죠. 리마인드 시키는 거. 그러면 그때 다시 또 이렇게 쓸 수 있게 되는 거죠.
언제 통역을 하셨고 어쩌다가 통역을 하시게
우리 아버지가 차 사업을 하시다가 갑자기 목사님이 되시나 했었어. 중학교 때. 그래가지고 중학교 때 이제 사업이랑 다 마치고서는 이제 신학교를 들어가셔가지고 공부를 하시고 나서 우리가 첫 그 목회지가 어디였었냐면 텍사스 주에 그 국제결혼 하신 사람들이랑 이제 사역을 하게 됐어요. 그러니까 와이프는 한국 사람이고 남편들은 이제 미국 사람들인 거야. 거기에서 이제 우리 아빠니까는 할 수 없이 내가 이제 통역을 하기 시작했을 때 그때는 너무 싫었었어. 왜냐면 통역을 잘 할지도 모르겠고 어떻게 해야 될지 모르고 우리 아버지니까는 할 수 없이 해야 되고 그리고 아버지가 모르는 단어 쓸 때는 화가 나기도 하고 내가 분명히 저 단어 모르는데 왜 저 단어를 썼을까 하는 그럴 때도 많았었고 그리고 특히 교인들이 이렇게 앉아 있어가지고 통역을 하고 있는데 한 사람밖에 없어. 통역 듣는 사람이. 근데 그 사람이 자고 있어. 그럼 그때 진짜 화가 나. 그렇게 시작했어 통역을 사실은. 그렇게 시작을 해가지고 중학교 때 통역을 시작을 해가지고 쭉 통역. 근데 아버지 통역이었었지. 아버지 통역 아버지니까 한 거고 다른 사람은 안 했었고. 그러다가 이제 대학 졸업하고 1994년에 류 목사님이 처음 오셔가지고 우리 목회자님들 대상으로 세미나를 하셨어. 하시고 나서 내가 한국 나와가지고 2달 있다가 95년도에 류 목사님 통역을 처음 했지. 그래서 그때 95년도부터 류 목사님이랑 통역한 거죠. I think there are several different things that you have to do to be an interpreter. The reason is because there are different types of interpretation. I never studied regular interpretation. in school, and there's a lot of schools here in Korea, excellent schools, but their interpretation is very different from our interpretation. Their interpretation is just, as long as you can summarize and get the meaning across, it's enough. But for us, we are interpreting every single word so that it gets across, because it's God's message. So probably if you wanted to talk about world interpretation, the very similar would be court interpretation. In America, in the courts, because in the court you have to say everything that the person says. That's probably the most similar to our kind of interpretation. But if you're talking about our kind of interpretation, the most important thing is your spiritual living. The reason is because it's God's message. And if you're not in the message, that message doesn't go out from you. I remember one time I was interpreting for Pastor Yu, and he gave a message about the Evangelism Institute, 신학원. And he was just talking about the 신학원, and it was easy. I interpreted. The next lecture was the Missionary Training Center, 선교사 훈련원. None of the words was hard. It wasn't difficult, but I had such a hard time interpreting. And I was wondering, there's no difficult word. He didn't say something very hard, but why am I having such a hard time? And I realized it's because up to that point, I graduated from Evangelism Institute, but I didn't go to Missionary Training Center. I didn't know what he was talking about. So because I didn't know the flow of the message, it was so hard for me to interpret. So the most important thing about interpreting the message is that you have to be in the flow of the message.
How many times do you go abroad in a year for interpretation?
How many times I go abroad in a year for interpretation? We have a conference every month overseas. And one or two of those are in countries where they don't speak English, like China or Japan or Russia. But besides that, I go to every other country. So I probably go out of the country maybe 9 or 10 times out of the year.
영어랑 한국어랑요 많이 다르잖아요. 근데 통역사는요 둘 다 잘하잖아요. 이게 어떻게 하실 수 있었는지 아니면 따로 영어랑 한국어를 따로 공부하셨던 건지.
영어와 한국말은 당연히 어렵고 다른 게 문법상 완전히 틀려. 문법상 완전히 틀리다 보니까는 일본말하고 한국말하고가 좀 많이 비슷해. 그래서 일본 사람이 한국말을 빨리 배우고 한국 사람들이 일본말을 빨리 배워. 그리고 중국어하고 영어가 비슷해. 그러니까 중국 사람들이 영어를 진짜 빨리 배우고 미국 사람들이 영어하는 사람들은 중국말을 더 빨리 배울 수 있거든. 그런 면에서는 이게 완전히 우리 뇌 구조가 바뀌어야 되는 게 언어를 배운다라는 거야. 그러면 어떻게 이렇게 생각하면 돼? 너네들은 아직 젊지만은 너희들 나이들이 지금 몇 살이야? 14살, 13살, 15살 되잖아. 그렇지만 그거를 내 나이라고 생각하지 말고 내가 14살, 14년 동안, 15년 동안, 16년 동안 일방통행의 생각을 가지고서 내가 살아왔어. 한국말은 이쪽 방향으로 가는. 그렇지만은 영어는 이쪽 방향이야. 그거를 내 구조를 바꿔서 내가 그거를 영어를 배워온다는 것이 당연히 어려운 거야. 그래서 나는 학생들한테 꼭 얘기하고 싶은 거는 수학이나 과학 배울 때 공부하는 거는 그거는 그냥 공식 배우고 하면 돼. 그렇지만은 영어 공부할 때는 진짜 기도하고, 그 기도가 뭐냐면 내 구조를 붙잡고 있는 흑암의 세력이 결박될 수 기도하고 난 영어 공부하는 거거든. 왜냐면 진짜 우리 내 구조가 바뀌어야 돼. 근데 내가 대학교를 딱 가가지고 대학교 2학년 때 기숙사에 가서 살고 있다가 2학년 때 내가 학교를 옮겼어. 그래서 부모님 가까이 와 있으면서 조금 한국 커뮤니티가 좀 많은 데로 오게 된 거야. 그러니까 내가 2년 동안은 완전 대학 속에 파 있으면서 영어의 현장에서 계속 살고 있었어. 그러니까는 물론 부모님은 한국 사람들이지만은 기숙사에 살고 있으니까는 내 모든 생활권이나 모든 건 영어였었어. 그러다가 갑자기 내가 다시 집에 들어오게 되고 할머니랑 다시 얘기해야 되고 매일 같이 엄마 아빠랑 밥 먹으면서 또 내 학교에 그 크리스천 클럽이 한국 크리스천 클럽이 많아가지고 거기서 활동하고 하다 보니까는 한국말을 갑자기 또 막 하는 그런 또 생활권에 들어가 버린 거야. 근데 그때 딱 내가 말이 이상해진 거야. 그래서 나는 분명히 친구를 딱 만나서 Hey, how are you? 하는데 Hey, who are you? 라고 나와. 내가 너무 당황했어. 너무 당황해가지고 아니 내가 한국말은 못한다면 내가 이해를 하겠지만은 나는 완전히 미국에서 태어나서 자라난 이세가 영어가 기본적인 영어가 안 된다라는 게 너무 내가 더 당황스러웠었어. 근데 그런 실수가 너무 많이 나거든. 그래서 내가 사실 2년 동안 말을 안 했거든. 그래서 내 친구들이 대학교 1학년 때 그렇게 떠들고 다니던 친구를 나를 다시 만나면 너 왜 이렇게 얌전해졌냐고, 너 왜 이렇게 조용해졌냐고 물어봤었는데, 얌전해지고 조용해진 게 아니라 실수 안 하려고 내가 말을 안 하기 시작했었어. 근데 그 시간이 내가 가만히 생각해보면 하나님이 지금을 위해서 내 생각 구조를 바꿔주는 시간이었었어. 그러니까는 보통 우리가 영어를 한다, 한국말을 한다 하면 머릿속에서 번역을 해, 통역을 해. 통역을 하고 나서 나와. 근데 그게 아니라 한국말은 한국말로 그대로 나가고 영어는 영어대로 그대로 나갈 수 있도록 그거를 만들어 나가는 시간이었었거든요. 그러니까 그거를 내가 알았으면 그 2년 동안의 시간이 나한테 고통스러우지 않고 훨씬 내가 도전을 하고 노력을 했을 시간이었었는데, 그걸 내가 몰라가지고 나한테는 그 2년 동안이 너무나도 힘든 시간이었었어요. 근데 그게 영어하고 한국말 차이인 거야. 지금 우리 학생들은 한글 생활권 속에서 쭉 12년 동안, 13년 동안, 14년 동안 살아왔다가 갑자기 영어의 미국보다는 영어의 생활권 속에서 내 생각과 모든 걸 바꾸려 하면 어떻게 보면 내 뇌를 다시 뜯어 고쳐야 될 타임인 거야. 그런 면에서는 어려울 수밖에 없어. 근데 너무나 당연히 거쳐나가야 될 시간이야. 그거를 조금 도전하고 그거를 알고 기다려주면서 버텨내 나가면 더 이상 내가 머릿속에서 번역을 하고 통역을 해가지고 나가는 게 아니라 한국말로 듣고 한국말로 이해해서 한국말로 튀어나갈 수 있는 내 구조, 또 영어로 듣고 영어로 이해해서 영어로 튀어나갈 수 있는 그런 시스템이 머릿속에 이제 세팅이 되는 거예요.
Alright, 한 번만 더. No. One more time, let's give missionary Esther Chang a
I
big
think we have
round.
one more question.
Another